In this video, I'm going to get you started on the first part of this week's lab assignment. All right, so in this part of the lab assignment, I will be covering how we go about making ceilings inside of a project and how we add light fixtures to those ceilings. So before you watch this video and follow along with it, make sure you watch the assigned LinkedIn Learning video because that will cover the process of creating ceilings and adding light fixtures in greater detail. So that way you won't be as confused when you go about following along with this video. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is open up the file that I have placed on Blackboard. Okay, so make sure you download that and go ahead and open that. So I'm going to go to my Open and navigate to where I have saved that file. And that file is called Lab 7 Ceilings Exercise -begin. All right, you should see this model upgrade window because the file was originally created in Autodesk Revit 2018 and we're upgrading it to Autodesk Revit 2021. You'll always see that window anytime you open up a new model in a newer version of Revit. All right. Okay, so now the model is open and we are at our level 1 floor plan view. If we want to go ahead and start creating ceilings in this very basic building that I have here, what we want to do is go here to our project browser and navigate to the level 1 ceiling plan view. All right, so once we click on that, we are now in a ceiling plan. And as you can see, we can no longer see the windows and the doors that were in the original floor plan. All we can see are the walls. And we can go ahead and start adding some ceilings into this floor plan, okay? So basically my goal here is I want to add acoustic ceiling tile ceilings to all of these rooms here on the perimeter of the building. And then in these corridors, we're going to add gypsum wallboard ceilings, okay? And within the rooms where we're adding the acoustic ceiling tile ceilings, we will be putting in troffer lights into the ceiling grids, and then in the gypsum wallboard ceilings, we'll be adding in some recessed can lighting, all right? So now that we're in this ceiling plan view, the next step is to go ahead and start adding our ceilings, okay? So what we're going to do is go up here to the Architecture tab and click on the Ceiling button. This will take us to our ceiling sketch mode, okay? And there are a couple things that we can do. There are a couple ways we can go about creating ceilings, okay? So first off, what we have is the automatic ceiling tool. And what this does is you hover over an enclosed region, okay, and you click and it will automatically create the ceiling for you. The second way to do this is to use the sketch ceiling option, and that lets you draw in the ceiling boundaries as you would like, okay? So similar to the floor tool that we've done in the past, you go in here and you choose your sketch tool and you draw in the boundary, okay? So for example, if I want to do this room, I would use that tool there. Draw in my boundary within these walls. And then when I'm done, click, and then click OK, and then it makes my ceiling for me. And when you use those different tools, it's really a matter of what you're dealing with. So for something very simple like this, where it's just regular squares or rectangular spaces, you can pretty much just get away with the automatic ceiling tool, and you can go around and click on each one of these individually. So if I were to do that for a few of these, what I could do is just click on them individually, and then when I'm done, just click escape, and you can see now I have 4 individual ceilings, and I can get to those by clicking my tab key until that highlights, and I can select it and see that I have individual ceilings. All right, I'm going to switch over to thin lines mode. As you can see, I have very thick lines here. That can make it kind of difficult if I'm trying to be precise. So to do that, I can hit TL on my keyboard, or I can go up here to where it says thin lines, and I can click that to make them thin. All right. So I'm going to show you now over here. Actually, I'll go down here. I'm not going to do the entire thing for you. The process should be pretty simple, but I want you to fill in the other side of this on your own, okay, as part of the exercise. So I'm just going to work on this side. So I'm going to show you how I would create those ceilings now with the sketch ceiling mode. All right, so if I were to go here to the sketch ceiling mode, and I would choose my rectangle tool and then click here, what you would want to do is now click the green check mark to finish this ceiling here so that you just get this room by itself. If you were to go ahead and draw in this ceiling over here at the same time, so I have two rooms now drawn, and then click OK, you can see that they're linked together. So whenever I toggle to them, it highlights both. That's not great just in terms of controlling them. Let's say one room I wanted the ceiling to be one height, and in the other room I wanted it to be a different height. With it connected like this, you won't be able to do that. Whenever you switch the height, it's going to control it in both rooms at the same time. So what you really want to do is draw them individually if you were using the sketch option. So here I would draw that one, click OK, and then I would go back and draw a new one and sketch ceiling, draw this one in, and then click OK. And now I have two of them, and you can see whenever I tab to select them, they're individual now. Okay, so now I have four individual ceilings here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of these ceilings. I'm just going to create a rectangular selection around them, starting here and dragging to the left. It's going to highlight more than what I want. Okay, you can see it's highlighted all of these walls and all the ceilings at the same time. And right now, if you look over here, you can see that I have 10 things selected. So now to just get my ceilings, what I'm going to do is go up here to my filter button, and then I'm going to uncheck the walls from my selection and click apply, and you can see now I just have my ceiling selected. Okay, so by default it has given us a 2x4 ACT system. I'm going to change this to a 2x2 ACT system. You can see when I do that, it adds in the grid lines in between. So now we have a 2x2 grid for all of these. And you can see by default what it does is it centers up these grid lines to the best of its ability. Okay, down here in the corner, you can see in my case this one is off, so these three are in the correct spot, but this one, if you look at the corner here, it's a little bit larger, and this side's a little bit smaller, so clearly my grid lines are misaligned going this direction. So what I'm going to do is use my align tool to make it the exact same as the one above. So now I'm just going to go over to my modify tab up here, click on the align tool, and then I want to choose first the grid line that I want to align my ceiling down here to. So I'm going to choose this grid line right here, and then I'm going to come down here and then choose this grid line, and when I do that, you can see the ceiling has moved and it's now in line, and all four of them are the same. All right. Okay, now that that is done, I'm going to add in my ceiling that goes right here. All right, so I'm going to go back here to my architecture tab, and I'm going to click on the ceiling tool again. This time I'm going to go over here before I make the ceiling, and I'm going to switch the type to gypsum wallboard on metal stud. And I'm going to choose automatic ceiling, and I'm just going to click inside this space here. Whoops, don't click too many times. You'll know that you've clicked too many times when it gives you that error. So I'm just going to actually undo that a few times. Let me go back to where I was. Okay. Ceiling, gypsum wallboard, automatic ceiling. So just click once, and it doesn't look like it did anything, but it did. Okay, and then you can just click escape. So like I said, if you click again and you get that error, you'll know that you have two ceilings on top of each other. So just click one time and then click escape. And if I were to tab, you can see that I do in fact have a ceiling there, even though it doesn't really look like I do. Okay. And let me see. I'm gonna actually modify this so that I can get a a view at what is going on here. So you can see by default I don't have any kind of a pattern, so it's hard for me to tell that there actually is a ceiling there. So what I'm going to do is make sure that's selected, go here to edit type, and then I'm going to go here to where it says the coarse scale fill pattern, and I'm going to click on this area right here, and then go over here to the right, and you should get this little button right there that says ... So that will take us to this window where it says fill patterns, and I want to just find this pattern right here that says gypsum plaster. Click on that, and then click OK, and then click apply, and then click OK. Actually, we need to do one other thing to get that to show up properly in this plan view. So we're going to go back to that, and then I'm going to go here to where it says structure and click on edit. Okay, and this should look very similar to what we did last week with the wall structure that we created. But what I'm going to do here is go to where it says finish to, and where it says material as gypsum wallboard, I'm going to click on that and then click on this little button that appears next to that. All right. Then you will get this window popping up. You want to make sure that you're on the graphics tab here, and you want to go here to the surface pattern. All right, so where it says foreground and it says pattern none, click on that. And then in here, find that same pattern we just had before. So gypsum plaster, click OK, and then click apply. All right, and then click OK, click OK, click apply, click OK. And you should see in the background now, we actually have a definite pattern there. So it's a lot easier for us to see that there's actually a ceiling within that space. All right. Okay, so now that those two ceiling types are in, what I'm going to do is take a look at my ceiling heights that I have set. So I'm going to tab until I get these ceilings up here, and I'm just going to hold the control key as I'm going around. So basically what I'm doing is tabbing and then holding my control key to get my little plus icon next to my cursor, and I'm going to click, and that's going to add to my selection. So we're just going to select all 4 of these, and I want to make sure that these are set at the correct height. So I'm actually going to change this here where it says the height. So height offsets from level. Let's set that to 9 feet, 0 inches. Okay, and then for this one out here in the hallway, let's set that one to 10 feet, 0 inches. All right. Okay. I'm going to create one more ceiling out here in this corridor. So actually what I can do is tab to this ceiling and then click or type CS on my keyboard, and that is going to do the create similar command. And I will click here in the middle, and that is going to create a new ceiling there in that corridor. Then I can just click escape when I'm ready. Now I will toggle to that ceiling, and I will set its height to 10 feet as well. Okay. All right, so the next step of the process would be adding in some light fixtures to these ceilings. Okay, so one way that we can do that is if we go here to the systems section up here at the top, and then we go over here to light fixture and click on that. You'll see it'll tell you that currently there are no lighting fixtures loaded into the project. Would you like to load one now? And you could click yes. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just to stay on the architecture tab. Now actually go to the insert tab, and then go over here to load family, okay, under load from library. So you can click on that. That takes you to the load family dialog, and you want to make sure you are in the English Imperial folder. Okay, so if for some reason you're out here under libraries, you want to make sure you're in English Imperial, and then you just want to find the lighting section. Okay, so lighting, and then architectural, internal, and then you'll see that there's several families that we can choose from that are built into Revit. So if you toggle through these, you'll get a little preview of what they look like. We're actually looking for a couple different ones here. The first one that we're looking for is a Troffer 2x2. All right. Yeah, let's do Troffer 2x2. And then I'm going to scroll up, and I want to find a recessed downlight. All right, let's try this downlight round LED, and then hold Control and then click on the Troffer light so that we're getting both of those. Let's see, hopefully it'll insert both at the same time. And then it doesn't look like anything happened, but if you go back to the Architecture tab and then click on where it says Component, that will take you to this section here, and you can click the drop down and see all of the different light fixtures, and these are all the families in the project. Okay, if you wanted to filter to just light fixtures, you could go to again, Systems, and then just click on Lighting Fixture over here, and it's just going to filter only the light fixtures that you have. All right, so it looks like this downlight round is not what I was looking for, so I'm going to go back to the Insert tab really quick and just click on Load Family again, and let me see if I can find the correct one here. I think they renamed it from what I'm used to in previous versions of Revit. Let's try this recessed lamp round LED. And let's click on this one here that says 4-inch trimmed downlight. All right, and then click OK to load that one in. And I'm going to go back to my System section, click on Lighting Fixture, and that looks more like what I'm looking for. All right, so basically you're seeing the preview of what that light fixture looks like, and this is basically if you're looking at the light from an upside down view. So this little rim around the edge of it is the actual trim around the outside of the light fixture, and then the rest of it is the actual light housing. Okay. So what I want to do first is switch this to my Troffer light. Okay, so I'm going to just click on this option right here. We'll just go with the first one that says 2x2 120 volt. And I want to start placing them within these grid ceilings, okay? Now, the layout for each of these is going to be the exact same. So really, we could just do one and then copy it around. So that's what I'm going to do. But what I'm going to do is start by making them two ceiling grid tiles away from each other. So I want to hover over this one right here. This is the section that I want to put it in. Okay, so basically it's like 2 away from the edge on either side. And I know I want it to go in here, so what I'm going to do is just place it roughly inside of that, but leave it away from the edges. Okay, so I'm going to just place one right there. And then I'm going to click Escape to back out. Click Escape a few times. So now I'm just back to my regular screen here with my cursor. Then what I want to do is click on the light fixture, and then up here in my ribbon, I want to use the Align tool. So I'm going to click Align. Then I want to click on the grid line first that I want to align to. So I'm going to click on this one, and then I will hover over the edge of the light fixture and then click that and snap it there. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this side. So I'm going to click on this grid line and then click on this edge of the light fixture to snap it. And now that is in the correct spot. All right, so now that that's placed, what I want to do is click on that, and then I want to copy it. Okay, so click on my copy tool. Then I will go in here and select one of these corners, and I will drag over and make sure that I have a 2 tile gap between them. All right, and then I will click on that intersection. All right, so now that that is placed, what I want to do is create a selection around both of these. So I'm going to click in one of these empty tiles, drag and hold down to the bottom right, and then release. So now I have both of them selected, and then I want to copy again from one of these corners down and make sure that there is a 2 tile gap between them. All right, so now that that is done, basically we're just going to replicate this exact same thing in the rest of the rooms, okay? A very easy way to do that is, again, to select all 4 of these. So hold up here, click and make a selection around them. And then I can actually mirror these across into this room over here. So what you would want to do is go up here to your mirror tool, pick axis, and then hover over the middle of this wall right here till you get this dashed line, and then just click on it. All right, and you can see since everything is symmetrical, it puts those in the exact right spot. Now to get them down here, we can actually do the exact same thing, or you could just copy them, but I think that's a little bit more work. So what I'm going to do is, again, click and drag and get all of these, and then I'm going to go up here, and this time I'm going to use this tool that says Mirror Draw Axis. The reason for that is because we're going to be mirroring over the center point of this wall, and you're not able to get that same dashed line when you're going through a wall perpendicularly, okay? Since we are mirroring over a wall basically parallel to itself, you're able to choose a dashed line that runs down the center of the wall, but in this case we won't be able to do that. So what we want to do is click on the Draw Axis option, and then find the midpoint of the wall right here. You'll get a little purple triangle, and you'll get the midpoint. Then click when you have that, drag to either the left or the right, okay? And then when you're over to the left or the right, click one more time, and it's going to mirror it across that axis that you just drew. All right, it looks like I have one more little error with my ceiling right here. So it looks like those, for some reason, mirrored to the wrong location. So I'm just going to select these and then just move them with the move tool into the correct spot. So they're all selected. I'm just going to go here with my move tool, click on the corner, and move it up so that that is nicely snapped to the correct grid line. All right, so that will do it for our troffer lights inside of these rooms here on the perimeter. Now what I'm going to do is add in some lights here to this area, so those recessed cans that we did. All right, so what I want to do for that is I want to go here to my component section, or actually I'm going to go back here to systems and then light fixture, and then go here to my drop down and then choose my recessed lamp round LED 4-inch trim downlight. All right, and then we want to go up here to our options, and we want to switch this from a vertical face to a just regular place on face. And then once we click on that up there, that allows us to actually place it into the ceiling itself, okay? So for the time being, I'm just going to place one right here in line with my light fixture that's above it. So I'm going to hover until I get that little reference line, and then I'm just going to click somewhere inside of the ceiling, okay? Then I'm going to click escape a couple times to back out, and now I'm going to set up for myself a little bit of a grid so that I know where I want to place these inside the ceiling, okay? To do that, I want to go to my Annotate tab, and there's a tool here called Detail Line. All right, detail lines have a lot of different functions, but I like to use them to just draw in some temporary CAD, sort of like AutoCAD lines, so that I know where to place elements. It just helps me to place elements inside of these views. So I'm going to click on Detail Line, and we just get basic drawing tools, okay? I'm going to switch the line style here to some kind of a dashed line. So I'm going to go here to Hidden, and then I'm going to start drawing here from the midpoint of that wall. Okay, and I'm just going to draw it all the way till I get to the midpoint of this wall there. So now you can see I just have this little dash line here, and that just allows me to visually see where the center of this ceiling is located. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is create another detail line. So here on the Annotate tab, detail line, I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to snap it to the midpoint of this light fixture and drag down until I hit my first detail line. Okay, make sure it's totally straight, and then click exit or escape. Now I'm going to click on that detail line, and I'm just going to click the end point of it right there and drag it until it intersects with my wall. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to click on my light fixture, go to my move tool, click on the middle of the light fixture, and then drag it until I find the midpoint of that detail line. All right, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell where that is. I believe it's right there. It appears it's right there. But something you can do is actually move it off to the side and then move it again, so that way it's not over top of itself. So now if I hover over it, you can see that's definitely the midpoint right there. And that is in the right spot. Okay, so now what we can do is basically copy this over, and I want this to fall in the exact spot, basically so it's in line with each of these lights here. Okay, so there's going to be one more here, one more here, and one more here. So to do that, we can basically, copy this from a specific base point. All right, so if I select my light fixture and then I click on my copy tool here, what I could do is basically click on one of these common corner points. So click on that right there, and actually before I do that, I'm going to choose multiple. That'll allow me to copy this as many times as I want, so I will click on multiple. Click on this corner point of this light fixture up here, and then just drag it and click on each of these light fixtures, okay? All right, there we go. Then with that done, what I'm going to do is highlight all of these, and I'm going to mirror across this middle line that I have right there. All right. So the next thing I want to do is actually even out the distance between these light fixtures. So if you notice, there is an uneven distance here and then here. So these two dimensions are the same, but this one in the middle is a little bit bigger. So I actually want these to be consistent in between here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this detail line and place it on all the rest of these. Okay, so I'm going to select that and then go up here to my copy tool and then hover over the midpoint of the light fixture. Click on that, and then I'm going to click on the midpoint of each of the rest of these light fixtures so that I get those detail lines right on top of those as well. I'm going to click on cancel here. Then once that is in the correct spot, what I want to do is go up here back to my Annotate tab, click on the Align Dimension tool, and I want to create an align dimension between each of these detail lines. Okay, so first I will click on this detail line here, then I will click on this one, keep it going to this one here, and then lastly to this one here on this edge. Then I will drag this all the way up here and then just click here off into white space to complete the dimension. And then when that's finished, I want to click on this EQ button to equalize the dimension between each of these detail lines. So I click on EQ, and you can see now there's an even spacing between each of these detail lines. Now I'll click escape a couple times, and the only thing left to do is to grab these two light fixtures here and then go to my move tool and then move them from midpoint so that they're right on top of the detail line. And when I snap on top of that, I will click and that will place it. Then just do the same thing for these two over here. So then move, and I will click and I will drag over here and I will finish those. All right, so now you can see my lighting layout is nice and evenly consistent between all of the light fixtures. So now what I can do is just highlight my dimension, delete it. When you get this error, just click unconstrain and then go in here and you can erase these detail lines because we no longer need them. And you can see now we have a completed lighting layout there. All right, so now we want to do essentially the same thing for this middle area right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is again create some more detail lines. So I will create a detail line that runs down the center point of this area. All right, and then I'm going to align my first and my last light with these light fixtures here. So I'm actually going to click the midpoint of this light fixture and just drag a detail line until I hit that wall, and then click escape, select the detail line, and then drag that back in to where I want it. And then I will do the same thing up here. So clicking on this light fixture, dragging all the way to this wall, clicking escape, and then I will drag this one in there. Okay. Actually, I'm going to shorten this just so it's right there because that will give me a midpoint snap here in the center to where I can snap my light fixture. All right, so with that set, what I want to do is click on one of my lights and then copy it and then choose the midpoint of it and then drag it and then place it on the midpoint right there. All right, then I'm just going to highlight it and then mirror it over my detail line right there. And then I'm going to show you a very simple technique for how we can fill this space in with lights and not have to mess around with any of the custom spacing that I showed you previously, okay? So the way I did it before with the detail lines, that is a good way to do it a lot of the times, but if it's a very just straight area like this and you know exactly how many rows of lights you want, what you can do is use the array method that was demonstrated in the LinkedIn Learning video. So what I can do at this point is highlight these two light fixtures and then go up here to my array button, and that is right here. So I will click on the array button. All right, and then I will uncheck this group and associate option. Actually, I will leave that on so that you can see what it does, but then I'll go back and uncheck it. All right, I just want to show you what that does. But what I want to do is set this to last, okay? And the reason I want to set this to last is because I know the endpoint. Basically what that means is if it was set to second, you would be defining where the second set in the array is, okay? So if that was set to second, I'd be basically placing it right there. And then you have to know, it has to be like really exact, okay? Usually you just want to use last if you know where the last one is going to go. In this case, I know where the last lights in the series are going to go, so I want to choose last, okay? Now what I want to do is click on this midpoint here between the two lights and then drag down until I get to this midpoint right here. Okay, and now it's asking me how many rows do I want between these 2 points, okay? If I were to just say like, let's try one like 8 and then click OK, you can see it goes in and it just puts in 8 by default. All right, you know, we can go in then and modify this. So you can see now I have this like line that's running through. It's sort of like a dimension and there's a number tied to it. All right, since I chose the group and associate option, I get this and I can always go back and click on this number that appears and I can update that to something else. So if I want to say like 7, it now intelligently goes back and it changes it to like 7. Well, let's try 6. I think 6 is pretty good, so that's what I'm going to leave it at. All right, but that's what doing the group and associate does. At this point, you can leave it like this, okay, and then basically just copy all of this stuff over to this side. But really quickly, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show you what the other array options do. So I'm going to undo really quickly and go back to this point, redo that duplication there, and then I'm going to go back to my array. All right, so like I said, if you were to select second, basically what you're doing is defining the second element in the array, and then it's just going to like keep copying it based on that distance. So if I set this to click on here and then drag down and then set that to like 5 feet, and then I choose a number of elements, maybe like 8 of them or 6 of them. Let's try 6. You can see it just keeps copying, and it's just going to keep adding to it based on the distance that you set for the second one. So now I could set this to like 10, and it just keeps going, okay? But you can see it doesn't end where I need it to, so that's why I use the last option previously. And then again, if I were to do this, going in here, going back to my array tool, making sure that's set to last, but unchecking group and associate, doing this again, so I'm choosing my first midpoint and then my last midpoint, and then you can see when I do that though and I finish, it doesn't give me the option to go back and modify how many are in that array because it wasn't associated, okay? So you really have to know the amount that you want at the beginning. All right, so that's why I like using the group and associate option. So in this case, I would have to set that to be 6 at the beginning and then go in here and do that one more time. And there it creates 6 of them, and I can individually select them, but I can't go back and change the array value after the fact, okay? All right, so now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and just delete out all of my detail lines I don't need, and you can see I have a pretty good light fixture layout in all these spaces. Now I'm going to go to just a 3D view so that I can see it a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to click here on my default 3D view here at the top. And then what I want to do is go here with nothing selected, and I want to scroll down until I see this section here that says section box. I'm going to click on that, and that's going to activate this little box here. Now with this active, what I'm going to do is I'm going to orbit my view so that I'm looking at the underside of the building. So I'm just holding the shift key, and then I'm holding the middle mouse button on my mouse and dragging. Then I'm going to rotate this until I'm looking at the bottom of the building. Okay, so here you can see there's the floor. Now what I'm going to do is click on my box. Okay, here's my section box. Then I want to click on this little control here, and I want to click and hold. I want to drag that upward, and wherever I release that is where it's going to cut through the building. Okay, so I'm just going to release that, and you can see as I move that up and down, it cuts away from the building so I can see inside of it. And this is just like kind of a good way of seeing if your light fixtures are looking correct, okay? So now if I zoom in here, you can see here's my ceiling grid in each of my rooms. Here are my light fixtures. I'm going to switch this to a shaded view to get an even better idea of how this is looking. So click on this button down here for your visual style. Set that to shaded. Okay, now you can see it a lot better. So here you can see our individual rooms, and here are the light fixtures in these perimeter rooms. Okay, and they're falling right on the lighting grid as we want, and they're embedded into the ceiling. And then here in our gypsum wallboard ceilings, we have our can lights that are recessed into them, okay? So that is looking how we want them to. And I can just go back here and I can make sure nothing is selected and disable my section box so that will go back to normal. And then if I go back to my reflected ceiling plan, that is how I want it to look. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. What you need to do at this point is basically replicate what you're seeing over here on the left side over here to the right side so that I'm seeing everything. One last thing that I want you to do is go up here to your annotate tab and click on text and add in your name. All right, so there you go. and make sure it's positioned above your floor plan so that I can see it. All right, and then the second part of this assignment is going to be provided on Blackboard. So just check there and follow along with what the second half of the lab assignment is.